Which hand? Those two words were the moment my life stopped belonging to the ordinary world I understood. 30 seconds earlier, I had been carrying 6 champagne flutes through the crystal ballroom of Chicago's Halston Hotel, trying not to think about the electric bill waiting on my kitchen counter. Snow pressed white against the 30-foot windows. A string quartet played near the staircase. 200 guests glittered beneath chandeliers that probably cost more than my apartment building. I was 27, 6 months out of a broken engagement, and working every banquet shift I could get because my former fiancé had left me with an empty savings account and a talent for distrusting promises. Then Charles Whitmore snapped his fingers at me. "Waitress." I stopped beside his table. His tuxedo cuff was damp with champagne. "You spilled this." "I did not serve your table, sir." His smile disappeared. "Are you calling me a liar?" "I felt people watching. I am saying I did not spill it." His hand moved suddenly. The impact turned my face sideways. One champagne glass tipped against another. Crystal chimed. The quartet stopped. My cheek burned. Nobody spoke. Then a chair scraped across marble. I looked up. Roman Moretti stood near the center table. I had noticed him earlier because everyone else had noticed him without looking directly at him. 36. Tall. Broad shoulders beneath a charcoal shirt and black jacket. A scar near his temple. Dark tattoos climbed from his hands beneath his sleeves and disappeared above his collar. Nico Bellini rose behind him. 3 men positioned around the ballroom straightened at once. Another stepped quietly in front of the private corridor. Roman walked toward us. Conversations died before he reached the table. Whitmore swallowed. Roman looked at my face. Then at him. "Which hand?" Whitmore's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Nico moved one step closer. 2 men near the doors shifted their weight. My pulse hammered beneath my jaw. I knew what everyone in that room understood. Roman had not asked because he needed information. "Do not touch him." Roman turned his head. His gray eyes settled on me. Nobody moved. My fingers were still shaking around the tray, but I held his stare. "He humiliated you," Roman said. His voice was quiet. "That does not make me permission." Something changed behind his eyes. Not softness. Attention. He looked back at Whitmore. "Leave." Whitmore glanced around as though someone might defend him. Nobody did. He walked away under the weight of 200 silent witnesses. Roman remained in front of me. "Are you hurt?" "I am standing." "That was not my question." "It is the answer you are getting." Nico almost smiled. Roman did not. But his gaze stayed on me half a second too long. I bent to retrieve the napkin that had fallen from my tray. That was when I saw it beneath Whitmore's chair. A black flash drive. Tiny. Unmarked. I covered it with my palm and slipped it into my apron before anyone noticed. Almost anyone. Across the ballroom, Whitmore had stopped beside the exit. His eyes were not on Roman anymore. They were on my pocket, and the fear on his face told me the slap had never been the most dangerous thing that happened that night. Whitmore disappeared through the ballroom doors, but the weight of his stare stayed inside my apron pocket. 10 minutes later, my supervisor found me beside the service elevator. "Grace. Office." Now, the basement hallway smelled like coffee, bleach, and overheated linen carts. I followed her into a windowless room where the hotel manager waited beside a man I recognized from Whitmore's table. A document rested on the desk. "Mr. Whitmore regrets the misunderstanding," the manager said. My cheek still felt warm. "That is an interesting word for it." He pushed the paper toward me. "This confirms that tonight's incident was private and will not be discussed publicly." I read the first paragraph. Confidentiality. No admission of wrongdoing. Compensation equal to 2 weeks of banquet shifts. "No," the manager blinked. "Grace, think carefully." "I am." I put the pen down. "Then you understand we may not have additional shifts available." There it was. Not an apology. A price tag. The door opened behind me. Nobody had knocked. Nico entered first. Dark coat. Cold eyes. He checked the room, then stepped aside. Roman followed. 2 more men remained in the hallway. The hotel manager stood so quickly his chair rolled backward. Roman noticed the document. "What is that?" Nobody answered. He picked it up, read half a page, and placed it back down. She said no. The manager swallowed. "Mr. Moretti, this is an internal matter." Roman looked at him. Silence stretched. The manager lowered his eyes. Roman reached inside his coat and handed Nico a small envelope. Nico offered it to me. "Your lost wages," Roman said. I did not take it. No, Nico's eyebrow moved. Roman's did not. You just lost your job. Then I need another job. Take it. Ask. The room became painfully quiet. Roman's jaw tightened. For a second, I wondered whether I had finally discovered the limit of his patience. Then he lowered his voice. Will you take it? No, something almost amused moved through Nico's expression. I folded my arms. I do not need to be bought. It is not charity. Then stop making it look like ownership. Roman stared at me. His tattooed fingers slowly closed around the envelope. Then he gave it back to Nico. Fine. No argument. No threat. Just that single word. I collected my coat and headed toward the employee locker room. The door was already open. A man in a gray jacket stood beside my locker with one hand inside it. He saw me, froze, then ran toward the loading dock. Hey, I shouted. Heavy footsteps came from behind me. Nico passed first. Two of Roman's men moved towards separate exits without waiting for instructions. Roman stopped beside my locker. Its contents were scattered across the floor. Wallet, gloves, bus pass, lip balm. He looked at me, then at my apron. What are they looking for? I do not know. His eyes dropped to my pocket. My heartbeat changed. Outside, an engine started hard and vanished into the snowy night. Roman extended his hand, palm up. Tattoos crossed his knuckles. Grace. It was the first time he had used my name. What did you take from that ballroom? I looked toward the loading dock, then back at the man. Everyone else seemed afraid to disappoint. Slowly, I reached into my apron. But before I could pull out the flash drive, Roman's phone vibrated. Nico answered his own at the same moment. His face changed. Boss, someone is already waiting outside her apartment. Nobody goes near her building. Roman's voice changed so little that I almost missed what happened around him. Nico was already moving. One man pushed through the loading dock doors. Another lifted a radio to his mouth. Somewhere outside, two engines turned over almost together. I still had my hand inside my apron. How do you know where I live? Roman looked at me. Your employee file. You read my employee file? My people checked it after Whitmore left. That is deeply unsettling. Someone waiting outside your apartment is more unsettling. I hated that he had a point. I pulled out the black flash drive and held it between two fingers. Roman's eyes narrowed. It was under Whitmore's chair. And he saw you take it? I think so. Nico returned. Snow melted across the shoulders of his coat. Gray sedan. Two men. One plate traces back to a company Whitmore uses for private security. Roman held out his hand. Give it to me. No, his expression hardened. Grace. If this is why someone went through my locker and drove to my apartment, I get to know what is on it. You are in no position to negotiate. My stomach tightened, but I kept the flash drive in my hand. Then I guess neither of us gets it. Silence. Behind Roman, one of his men stopped mid-step. Roman stared at me long enough for the service elevator to open and close again untouched. Then he exhaled through his nose. 24 hours. For what? To identify what is on that drive and make your apartment safe. And where exactly am I supposed to spend those 24 hours? Somewhere Whitmore cannot reach. I looked past him toward the loading dock. 3 black SUVs waited beneath the falling snow. A driver held the rear door of the middle vehicle open. 2 men watched the alley. Another checked the street. Your place. A guest house. Inside your place. Inside guarded property. That was not comforting. Something almost shifted at the corner of his mouth. Almost. Give me 24 hours, Grace. He was asking. I noticed that more than I wanted to. I see the files when you do. Roman glanced at Nico. Nico gave the smallest nod. Agreed. The convoy carried us north through streets glazed with snow. Roman sat across from me in the rear cabin, broad shoulders filling the dark coat, tattoos visible where his sleeves met his hands. He barely spoke. His phone did enough talking for him. Every few minutes it vibrated. A name appeared. Roman answered with 5 words or fewer. Check the second address. Keep Whitmore under watch. Nobody approaches the girls' building. Each command changed something outside our windows. Cars turned. Men moved. Doors opened before we reached them. 40 minutes later, iron gates separated around a stone property hidden behind snow-covered trees. Grace Miller, banquet waitress with $43 in checking until Friday, had somehow arrived inside a world with cameras on every corner and men who never stood with their backs to doors. The guest house was warmer than I expected. Lamps, books, a kitchen that smelled faintly of coffee. Still, 2 men remained outside. They stay outside, I said. Roman removed his coat. Black ink disappeared beneath his charcoal sleeves. They stay outside. Nico arrived 20 minutes later carrying a secured laptop. I placed the flash drive on the table myself. He connected it. Folders appeared. Donations. Transfers. Foundation accounts. Roman leaned over his shoulder. I watched numbers scroll until one folder stopped me cold. Miller. That is my last name. Nobody answered. Nico opened it. A scanned photograph appeared first. My father stood outside Whitmore Foundation headquarters, younger than I remembered him, holding a cardboard records box. Beneath the photograph was a document dated 14 years earlier. Roman read the first line and went completely still. What? I asked. He turned the screen toward me. My father's name appeared beside one word I had spent half my life trying to forget. Fraud. Then Roman pointed lower on the page. Grace, your father was not the suspect. His gray eyes lifted to mine. He was the witness. My father had been dead for 11 years, and somehow Charles Whitmore had still managed to lie about him that night. I stared at the screen until the letters blurred. Fraud investigation. Witness, Thomas Miller. Nico scrolled carefully. Bank transfers filled the next pages. Donation accounts. Consulting fees. Money moving through companies with names designed to mean nothing. My father was an accountant, I said. He worked for Whitmore Foundation for 6 years. Roman stood across the table beneath the warm kitchen light. Without his coat, the tattoos along his forearms were impossible to ignore. What happened 14 years ago? I swallowed. He was accused of manipulating foundation accounts. No charges were filed, but Whitmore made sure everyone knew. Dad lost clients. Friends stopped calling. We moved twice. My voice caught. He spent the rest of his life saying he had done nothing wrong. Roman's jaw tightened. Nico opened another file. A letter appeared with my father's signature at the bottom. I recognized the handwriting immediately. Thomas Miller had documented irregular transfers and requested an independent audit. 3 days later, Whitmore's attorneys accused him of misconduct. I sat down. The chair felt suddenly too hard beneath me. He was telling the truth. Roman said nothing. That helped more than sympathy would have. Nico clicked through another folder. Boss. One word. Roman moved beside him. A spreadsheet showed payments routed through Whitmore Foundation into several shell companies. Nico pointed to one. Sarah Logistics. Roman became still. Outside the window, one of the guards changed position beneath a security light. Dominic. Roman asked. Company belongs to his cousin, Nico said. Roman reached for his phone. Lock the gates. Through the glass, movement began immediately. A man crossed the driveway. Another SUV rolled toward the entrance. Radios clicked outside. Nobody leaves the main house. Nobody comes onto the property without my approval. He ended the call. I stood. You know that company. Roman looked at me. I know the man connected to it. Friend. Family once. There was something colder than anger in his voice. Betrayal. I stepped toward the laptop. We need the original records. My father spent years carrying this alone. I am not walking away now. This stopped being safe before you picked up that drive. Then tell me where the records are. Roman's eyes narrowed. You think courage makes you untouchable? No. I think being afraid does not make me useless. Silence. Nico looked down, wisely interested in the keyboard. Roman's gaze stayed on mine. My pulse was loud, but I did not move. Finally, he turned toward the screen. There is a reference to a physical ledger. Nico searched. A scanned note appeared. Archive B. Whitmore Foundation. Lower storage. Roman looked at his watch. Nearly 2 in the morning. We go after daylight. I am coming. No, Roman. Grace. Those records belong to my father's investigation. His tattooed hand tightened against the table, then stopped. He looked at it as if remembering something. You stay beside me. You do exactly what Nico says if something changes. I decide when I leave. His eyes lifted. Fine. The word came reluctantly. But it came. Nico suddenly leaned closer to the screen. There is another file. He opened a security photograph from the gala loading dock. Whitmore stood beside a dark sedan. A second man faced away from the camera. Broad shoulders. Dark coat. A familiar profile. Roman's expression emptied. Who is that? I asked. Nico did not answer. Roman did. Dominic Sarah. Then Nico enlarged the timestamp. The photograph had been taken 20 minutes before Whitmore slapped me. Roman looked toward the locked gates. This was planned before you ever picked up the drive. By 6:30, the snow had stopped, but nobody inside Roman Moretti's gates had relaxed. Black SUVs idled beneath pale security lights. Men in dark coats moved between the main house and driveway with coffee in one hand and radios in the other. I had slept maybe 40 minutes. Roman looked as though he had not tried. He stood at the kitchen counter in a black shirt with his sleeves pushed back, studying photographs Nico had spread across the marble. That was when I noticed the name tattooed along the inside of his left forearm. Elena. Who was she? I asked. Roman's eyes dropped to the ink. My sister. Past tense. I knew enough not to fill the silence too quickly. What happened? She trusted someone powerful. His jaw tightened. He made sure everyone around her understood that speaking would cost them something. A phone vibrated. Roman ignored it. She asked for help too late. And you could not protect her. His eyes lifted sharply. I should have stepped back. I did not. That is why you stood up last night. Roman turned toward the window. Beyond the glass, Nico gave one small signal, and two men climbed into the lead SUV. I watched 200 people see what Whitmore did, Roman said. Most of them looked at their plates. So you saw Elena. Silence answered me. I moved closer to the counter. Roman, I am not her. I know. Do you? He turned. The scar near his temple caught the gray morning light. Because every time you decide what is safe for me without asking, I wonder whether you are protecting me or trying to change something that already happened. His tattooed hand closed against the counter. For 1 second, his face became frighteningly still. Then his fingers loosened. One by one. You think I am controlling you. I think you are afraid. That landed harder. His phone vibrated again. This time he answered. Speak. He listened. Keep the east entrance closed. Nobody enters without Nico. He ended the call. Fear keeps people alive. Sometimes. I looked toward the guarded windows. Sometimes it just builds nicer cages. Roman stared at me. Nobody had spoken to me like that when my fiancé emptied our savings account. Everyone had called him selfish. Nobody had asked why I had spent 2 years mistaking his control for concern. Maybe that was why I recognized the difference now. I will go to the foundation with you, Roman said. Nico stays close. Agreed. If he tells you to move, you move. If he tells me why. Roman exhaled. You negotiate everything. Only my own life. Something changed in his eyes. Not irritation this time. Respect, perhaps, or the beginning of it. Nico entered carrying a sealed evidence bag. Boss, we found something in the gala service corridor. He placed a silver cuff link on the counter. An engraved letter S marked its face. Roman looked at it. Dominic. Nico nodded. Security footage shows him entering the employee area 40 minutes before someone searched Grace's locker. Roman's expression hardened. Men outside seemed to sense it before he spoke. 2 radios clicked almost together. Fine, Dominic. Nico did not move. There is more. He placed a photograph beside the cuff link. A younger Roman stood beside a dark-haired girl who had his eyes. Elena. Beside them stood Dominic Sarah, smiling with one arm around Roman's shoulder. I looked from the photograph to Roman. He knew your sister? Roman's voice dropped until I barely heard it. He was the last person she called. Dominic Sarah disappeared before sunrise, and by 7:15 Roman had turned the property into something that felt less like a home than a guarded border. Men checked every vehicle twice. Nico changed the gate codes. A black SUV remained outside the guest house with its engine running. When I stepped onto the porch wearing yesterday's coat, 2 men immediately straightened. Why are they still here? I asked. Roman came down the stone path behind me. Black shirt, dark coat, tattoos visible across his hands. Nico followed 6 feet back, speaking quietly into a radio. Because Dominic knows your name. We agreed Nico stays close. Plans changed. Without asking me. Roman stopped. Someone connected to Whitmore searched your locker. Someone waited outside your apartment. Dominic knew Elena, knew your father's investigation, and knew about that drive before you picked it up. None of that answers my question. His eyes hardened. 4 men stay with you. No, the nearest guard looked carefully away. Grace, you asked me for 24 hours. You did not ask for ownership of every hour after that. Roman lowered his voice. This is not about ownership. Then why does everyone know where I am except me? Silence. Snowmelt dripped from the roof between us. Nico stopped speaking into his radio. If I go to the foundation, 4 men follow. If I go home, 4 men follow. If I want coffee, somebody probably checks the cup first. If necessary. That is exactly the problem. Roman's jaw flexed. You think I enjoy this? I think fear makes you call control protection. His face went still. I could see Elena's name where his coat sleeve had pulled back. Everyone I failed to protect disappeared, he said. The words were almost too quiet to hear. My anger softened, but I did not surrender it. Then do not protect me by making me disappear inside your rules. For several seconds, the only sound was an SUV idling beyond the trees. Roman looked toward Nico. Pull the detail. Nico frowned. Boss. You heard me. Dominic is missing. Roman's eyes returned to mine. She decides. One by one, the men near the guest house stepped away. The SUV shut off. The sudden quiet felt enormous. Thank you, I said. Roman gave a short nod. Do not thank me for returning something that was yours. That sentence stayed with me. An hour later, I stood beside my car outside the gates. Roman had offered a driver. I refused. He had offered Nico. I refused that too. The foundation can wait, he said. I need my apartment. Clean clothes. 10 minutes of feeling normal. His hands remained inside his coat pockets, as if he did not trust himself to reach for anything. Call if something changes. I will. Grace. I turned. For once, there was no command waiting behind my name. Be careful. You too. The iron gates opened. Nobody followed me. I checked twice. Roman had kept his word. My apartment smelled like stale coffee and radiator heat. I changed clothes, opened the curtains, and found an envelope pushed beneath my door. No return address. Inside were 3 photographs. Whitmore entering a downtown restaurant. Nico arriving 11 minutes later. Nico leaving through the rear entrance with a thick envelope beneath his arm. My stomach dropped. On the back of the final photograph, someone had written a date. 2 weeks before the gala. My phone rang. Roman. I stared at Nico's face in the photograph before answering. Grace, do not leave your apartment. Why? A pause. Because we found Dominic's car. And Roman's voice turned cold. Inside it was a photograph of you. I looked again at the envelope in Nico's hand. Roman, I need to ask you something. Ask. My fingers tightened around the photograph. How long have you known Nico was meeting Whitmore? The silence on the other end told me the answer before Roman did. 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I repeated, and suddenly the safest thing Roman had given me felt like another locked door. The radiator clicked behind me. Outside my apartment window, tires whispered over wet pavement. Roman said nothing for a moment. Nico was investigating Whitmore. And you decided I did not need to know. I decided you did not need another reason to doubt everyone around you. I almost laughed. You do not get to manage my doubt. Grace. My fiancé used to say the same thing. He hid bills because he did not want me worried. He moved money because he was handling it. Every lie arrived wearing the same coat. Protection. Silence. Nico took an envelope from Whitmore. I said, I have photographs. Roman's voice sharpened. Who sent them? I do not know. Do not touch anything else. There it is again. This is different. It always is to the person giving the order. I ended the call. My hands shook afterward. I hated that part. Courage never stopped fear. It only made me move while fear came along. I placed the photographs on my kitchen table. Whitmore entering the restaurant. Nico arriving. Nico leaving. I studied them again. Something bothered me. The angle. Whoever took them had been watching from across the street. My phone vibrated twice. Roman. Then Nico. I ignored both. A third vibration came from an unknown number. One message. Check your father's storage box. I froze. My father's things had been packed since my mother moved to Arizona. One cardboard box remained in my hall closet because I had never found the courage to sort it. I dragged it into the kitchen. Tax records. Old photographs. A broken watch. Then an unopened padded envelope addressed to me in my father's handwriting. My name looked younger somehow. I sat on the floor before opening it. Inside was a photograph and a handwritten note. Grace, if anyone ever tells you I stole from that foundation, remember that numbers do not care who has power. Follow them. My throat closed. I turned over the photograph. Whitmore stood outside the same downtown restaurant. Nico was across the street, younger, watching him. But there was a third man near Whitmore. Dominic Sarah. He was accepting an envelope. I looked at the photograph someone had pushed beneath my door. Different years. Same restaurant. Same camera angle. Someone had cropped Dominic out. My phone rang again. This time I answered. Roman. Where are you? Home. Stay there. Listen to me. The photographs were altered. Silence. Then movement on his end. A car door slammed. An engine started. Explain. My father had an older photograph. Dominic was meeting Whitmore years ago. Nico was watching them. Roman swore under his breath, then turned away from the phone. Nico, bring the car. Another voice answered immediately. Doors closed. Grace, send me everything. I will. And I should have told you about Nico. The admission stopped me. No excuse followed it. Yes, I said. You should have. I thought information was another thing I could control. You cannot build trust by deciding which truth I can handle. I know. His voice was quieter now. I am learning. Before I could answer, another call reached Roman. I heard Nico speak in the background. Fast. Urgent. Roman went silent. What happened? I asked. Dominic contacted us. What does he want? Me. A pause. He has the original ledger. My stomach tightened. Where? An Italian restaurant on West Taylor. Closed since last winter. Do not go angry. Roman gave a humorless breath. Grace, this is not your fight. I looked at my father's note. It became my fight 14 years ago. Stay home. Roman. Silence. Then his voice changed. Not command. Request. Please. That single word almost kept me there. Almost. Then I noticed something written beneath my father's photograph in faded blue ink. Elena knows where the second copy is. I stopped breathing. Roman. What? I stared at his sister's name. My father knew Elena. My father had known Elena, and Roman went so quiet that I could hear the engine beneath his voice. Read it again. I held the photograph under my kitchen light. Elena knows where the second copy is. Another silence. Then Nico spoke somewhere near him. Boss, we are 5 minutes out. Roman answered without hesitation. Change route. Roman, what are you doing? Buying time. Tires hissed over wet streets through the phone. Send Nico a picture of the note. I did. 30 seconds later, Nico called from Roman's car. Elena volunteered at Whitmore Foundation 17 years ago. Financial literacy program. Your father supervised the accounts. My knees weakened. I sat at the kitchen table. They knew each other through the foundation. Looks that way. Roman's voice dropped. Elena kept a safe deposit box. Nico understood immediately. I will check it. No. Dominic is expecting movement. Roman paused. Call the bank. Quietly. This was his world again. Short orders. Immediate responses. Somewhere across Chicago, people moved because Roman had spoken, but he did not tell me what to do. Not this time. Grace, he said. What do you want? The question surprised me. The truth. Then we get the truth. 20 minutes later, Nico confirmed the box still existed under Elena's name, with Roman listed as beneficiary. Inside was a sealed packet deposited shortly before Elena died. Copies of my father's financial records. Letters. Dates. Enough to prove Whitmore had spent years hiding diverted charity funds and Dominic had helped move them. Roman exhaled once. We do not need Dominic's ledger anymore. Then do not go. I need to end this. How? Silence. I pictured his tattooed hand tightening. Elena's name beneath his sleeve. Roman. Stay home. The line went dead. I stared at the phone. Then I grabbed my coat. The restaurant on West Taylor Street was dark except for one amber light above the entrance. 3 black SUVs lined the curb when I arrived. Men in dark coats controlled both ends of the sidewalk. Nico saw me first. His face tightened. Grace. Do not start. He is not going to like this. That makes 2 of us. Inside, chairs were stacked on tables. Roman stood beneath the old bar lights, facing Dominic. 4 of Roman's men remained near the doors. Nobody touched anyone. Nobody needed to. Dominic looked older than his photograph. She came, he said. Roman turned. Anger flashed across his face. Then restraint covered it. You should not be here. Neither should you. Dominic laughed softly. This is what she has done to you. Roman ignored him. Nico found Elena's box. Dominic's smile disappeared. It is over, I said. The records exist without your ledger. Dominic looked at Roman. Then why are you still here? Ask her which hand now, Roman. Maybe she can tell you what you are allowed to do with it. Roman's fingers curled. The room changed. Men near the doors straightened. Nico shifted 1 step forward. My heart pounded. Wrong question, I said. Roman looked at me. Then what is the right one? I stepped closer, stopping several feet away. Which man do you want to be when you walk out that door? Nobody moved. Roman looked down at his closed hand. Elena's name disappeared beneath his fist. Slowly, his fingers opened. Nico. Boss. Call the authorities. Give them everything. Dominic stared at him. You are walking away? Roman's eyes stayed on mine. No, his voice was calm. I am choosing what I walk toward. Nico reached for his phone. The men at the doors relaxed by inches. Roman crossed the room and stopped in front of me. His hand lifted, then stopped before touching my shoulder. May I? My throat tightened. I nodded. His hand settled lightly against my coat. For the first time, the most powerful thing Roman Moretti did was not make someone obey. It was choose not to. 3 months later, I stood beneath warm lights in a community hall on the north side and watched my father's name appear on a scholarship certificate. Thomas Miller Financial Integrity Fund. I had cried when the attorney first suggested it. I did not cry that evening. I smiled. The records from Elena's safe deposit box had done what my father never lived long enough to see. They cleared his name. Whitmore Foundation came under investigation. Dominic's financial records gave investigators another trail to follow. Roman handed over every document Nico had collected, then did something I had once believed impossible for him. He stepped back. He let the truth work without forcing the ending. I rebuilt my life slowly. I found a job managing events at a small nonprofit that taught hospitality workers about workplace rights and financial independence. My apartment was still small. My coffee maker still made an alarming noise every morning. I still checked my bank balance before buying anything unnecessary. Normal had never felt so beautiful. Roman did not surround me with guards. He did not send money. He did not appear outside my building without asking. Sometimes he called. Sometimes we talked for 10 minutes. Sometimes an hour passed without either of us noticing. He told me about Elena. I told him about my father. Trust returned quietly, without announcements. Then, on the night of our first fundraiser, conversation near the entrance suddenly softened. I knew before I turned. Roman stood inside the doorway wearing a black coat over a charcoal shirt. Tattoos crossed his hands. The scar near his temple caught the light. Nico waited several steps behind him. Through the windows, I could see 2 black SUVs at the curb and men positioned discreetly outside. Roman had not become less dangerous. His world had not disappeared. He had simply learned that loving someone did not mean dragging her into it. People moved aside as he crossed the room. I did not. He stopped in front of me. Congratulations. Thank you. His eyes moved toward the certificate bearing my father's name. He would be proud of you. My throat tightened. Elena would be proud of you too. Roman looked down for a moment. When he raised his eyes again, something in them had changed. Not weakness. Peace. May I walk you home? I glanced toward the SUVs. Walking usually involves feet. Nico coughed into his hand to hide a laugh. Roman almost smiled. 4 blocks. You counted. I noticed things. That sounds suspiciously like surveillance. I am still learning. Clearly. He offered his hand. Open palm. No command. No expectation. I remembered another ballroom. Another hand. Another version of both of us. Roman could have ordered doors locked, cars brought around, men found, streets watched. He could make rooms fall silent with one look. But he waited. So I made my choice. I placed my hand in his. Outside, Chicago air bit cold against my cheeks. Roman walked beside me while Nico and the others remained behind. 4 ordinary blocks. There were no commands between us. Only footsteps, winter lights, and 2 wounded people choosing the same direction. He had spent his life believing strength meant holding on tightly enough that nothing could be taken from him. I taught him that love needed an open hand. He taught me that being protected did not have to mean being owned. He could command everyone around him. But he had to earn my trust. And when he finally did, staying was no longer surrender. It was my choice. Sometimes the strongest empire is not built through fear. Sometimes it begins when 2 wounded hearts finally learn how to choose each other. Thank you for staying with our story until the end. If it moved you, please subscribe to the channel and share this story with someone who still believes that courage, trust, and love can change even the hardest heart.